Start again. So we were talking about how the innocent three, he was a man of some long vision, and he understood that unless something is done immediately, the church will suffer terribly. And so he has called people to come forward, do whatever you can to educate the people and all that. So we have seen that, the Franciscans and Dominicans have come forward, and they have established, their order, and they have done much service. Now, the Western Europe was culturally real bad. The Eastern Europe was much ahead. The Byzantine culture, that's in itself in the history. The Byzantine kings and the Byzantine culture is a major culture. That was for the Eastern Europe. Yes, the Eastern Empire. The Western Empire was culturally down, and actually there were no education institutions much there. But the one good thing about the Crusades was the cultural revolution in the West. See, when these people went for crusades to the Palestine, they were shocked. Why were they shocked? Because the Muslims they found there were far advanced than these Christians in culture, especially the Muslims from Spain and the eastern countries. They were more cultured than the Western Europe. Western Europe was in a great darkness, both spiritually and mentally. People could not read, they could not write, they knew nothing of the Bible. Europe gradually emerged out of darkness, very slowly. Many universities began to come up in Germany and France and England. These universities turned out great teachers such as Anselm, Abelard, Peter Lombard, Albertus Magnus and Thomas Aquinas and Duns Scotus. These are some of the great names in church history, and they are great theologians and all that. These men were called the schoolmen. They are called the schoolmen or the scholastics, the schoolmen. They emphasize the learning of the language, theology, philosophy and all that. So that's a result of the Crusades, because these people were shocked to find that there were people who were far advanced. They spoke good languages, they had good mannerisms, they wore better clothes, and they had better family life and all that. So basically the Western Europe was shocked. Here they have sent children and young people, they couldn't read and write nothing, nothing. Even some of these bishops didn't know anything. Only by simony, that is buying the office because of money and all that, they became like that. So one good advantage about or benefit about the crusade was a cultural revolution in the West. And also, as I said, Germany, France, Italy, England, all these countries, the people couldn't read and write, but now after the Crusades, after Innocent, they established universities and studies and all. Actually, they got ahead the Eastern Empire now with all these universities and all these come up, They were. Thomas Aquinas had done a massive work, Summa Theologica. It's a massive work, Summa Theologica. It was a synthesis of classical and Christian thought, and is the basis of the Roman Catholic theology. Actually, the father of the Roman Catholic theology is Thomas Aquinas. Until Thomas Aquinas, they changed. He came in. Today what we see in Roman Catholic Church is basically Thomas Aquinas' theology. So, and the basis of that one is Theologica, Summa Theologica. That great, massive work. It's good to get it if you want to know what the Roman Catholics teach and why they teach. Of course, I don't recommend you spend that much money on it. Unless you are seriously interested. But it was, yes, they were. Medieval men also built beautiful cathedrals. Another one thing, you have seen some of the pictures of the ancient medieval cathedrals. The medieval architecture itself became, the old Gothic architecture and all those things, and they are with big steeples and stained windows and all those things. They're beautiful. Actually, they are beautiful. I love to go inside some of those buildings if I can have time. And of course, they have all these murals. They are painted on that one. Jesus walking on the water, or raising up the dead. And so many of the biblical pictures they have painted. Abraham offering Isaac. And they are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful pictures. Of course, this is the artist point of view. We should not be against art, Yes, you should not be against art, Art has a great way of communicating. That does not mean that it's wrong to have a painting where Abraham offering Isaac, or something in your room and say, that's not idol worship. You are not worshipping anybody. It's a pictorial representation of the biblical theme, and some artists have very nicely painted it, And this was good that. So actually the Crusades, though the motivation of the crusade was actually to consolidate the power of the Pope, but yet it turned out for some good. So medieval men built beautiful cathedrals. The cultural revival also affected the church. The church is in the world, and any major change sooner or later would affect the church. The church was going forward. The church was going forward, marching, but they were not necessarily keeping up with the world. But yet the church began to go. However, now comes a period of time the church power is going down. Innocent is gone. Innocent is gone. Other great men came, but I tell you, the church is slipping very, very fast. The popes from Innocent III till Boniface VIII were generally successful in keeping the church strong. Most of the 13th century went well. Now comes Boniface VIII, and a sudden decline of the church began. The character and the personality of the leaders matter a lot in leading the people. Boniface VIII was a pope from 1294 to 1303. Boniface was an arrogant man, And any time you have an arrogant man, something bad will come, something good won't come, because arrogance is not a Christian virtue. So Boniface was an arrogant man. And he was a man of great pomp and pleasure, Of course, he was a man of learning. But when he was installed Pope, he made one king on the left and another king on the right of his horse, holding the stirrup of the horse, He was a, such man. But Boniface soon got into trouble with the King of France, King Philip. King Philip levied tax on clergy. Up to this time, the clergy were free. They can make any amount of money, no income tax, no tax. And of course, King Philip said no. The bishops have to pay tax. Yes. But Pope said no. No tax will be. King retaliated by forbidding any exportation of precious metals and stones from France. Said no valuable thing can be gone out of France. The bishops cannot take. Actually, the Pope lived by, those days, these are the gold coins and all coming in, not the paper money. And a king said no. The money of France will be in France only. So Pope was in great trouble because money was not coming. Pope needed money. So basically what happened? So king retaliated by forbidding any exportation of precious metals and stones from France. Gold, silver, diamonds, nothing. This way the king cut off the revenue of the Pope. And the Pope sent out many bulls. You know what a bull is? Bull is not the two-horned animals, no. A bull is an official papal pronouncement or declaration, It basically says it's a letter, but not a letter of, thank you, please, and all that. It's called a bull because, the Pope will put his seal. The seal was called a bull. It's a red seal. So when the Pope puts that seal, it's an official, authoritative declaration. He has sent out many bulls. No use. No use. Each bull will be, was rejected. Pope pronounced a ban on King Philip, hoping it would do the same as, Gregory's ban on Henry, but it had no effect. Times have changed. In the time of Gregory, feudalism prevailed, and the nobles were strong. But by the time of Boniface, feudalism had lost its meaning due to the Crusades. The nobles lost their estates for crusades. Now the princes need the support of the king and not the Pope. Princes could go on only with the support of the king. The Pope has nothing to give them. So Pope has nothing to give, but the king had everything to give. The king sent 2 bands of soldiers to arrest the Pope. But the people of Agnani, where the Pope was, supported the Pope. But the soldiers had beaten up the people very badly. But they could not arrest the Pope because people protected the house. He was kept somewhere secretly, so he was not. They could not arrest Pope. Boniface was an old man, 80 years. The complete defeat the Pope suffered from the King Philip and the ill treatment by the soldiers broke the Pope's spirit, and he died in few days. Actually the man returned to Rome, but no Pope in later years tried to send out bulls like Boniface. I said, the bulls gored the Pope back. They sent out the bulls to gore the king, but the bulls gore the Pope. Boniface failed to understand the times. That's what happened. Nationalism has taken upper hand. The king declared, in civil matters, the clergy or the Pope has no authority. Don't interfere in the matters of our administration. The king, you just look after your spiritual matters, don't go. Innocent III was everything, he was king over the whole world in everything. He was a pope, but he was the king, the pope. But those days were gone. Those days were gone. So, basically the pope suffered, When the king arrested the Pope, of course, he could not be arrested only because somebody in some home had hidden him, The soldiers could not go every home searching for this one. But the soldiers have, they destroyed the place, they have beaten up the people. And the poor Pope was mentally, emotionally, he was, he suffered very much. The thought of itself that he being dragged by the soldiers and putting in a dungeon or something, it itself, he was a very old man, so he died. Now there is a period called from 1309 to 1376. This period is called the Babylonian captivity of the Roman Church. The Babylonian captivity, because this period lasted for 70 years. Basically, 1309 to 1376. If it's from 1306 to 1376, it's 70 years. So it's only a couple of years. So this is called the Babylonian captivity. What happened? The papal seat was removed from Rome to Abingdon. This the king said. King said, no pope will be in Rome anymore. You will come and live near me. I'll keep an eye on you. So Rome was the place where all the popes were there. So, Abingdon was very close to France. So the king said, no, popes won't stay there. Pope will stay near my palace. I'll keep an eye on you. You cannot go out unless I permit you, that sort of. So it's called the Babylonian captivity. From 1309 to 1376, they resided in Abingdon. It is called a captivity because the popes during this time was completely under the domination of the French kings. It is called Babylonian captivity also because it lasted for 70 years. During this period, all the popes were from France. So, that means the Frenchmen were only made Pope 70 years. The king did it. I decide who will be the Pope, and they will obey me, So you can just see the reverse of it. See, Innocent III, how powerful he was. All of a sudden it's an eclipse. It's like a solar eclipse. The sun is gone, the power is gone, the glory is gone, everything is gone. Nobody to listen to him. Nationalism was growing. Nationalism was growing. Certain German states established their right to freedom, to elect their own king. without the approval of Pope. They said, we will decide who will rule us. Pope, you mind your own business. You read the Bible and you take your quiet time and devotions. We'll do the rest of it. The principle that German emperors were independent of papacy was established there. You know, that was God's providence. Because when Reformation came, who protected Luther? Frederick the Great. He was the king, of Germany, so they were free, Pope only request, Pope cannot command. The king doesn't have to obey it. They claimed that German kings and emperors derived their power directly from God. The principle became part of their constitution. They have written down, their kingship directly derived, given to them by God. Pope's name was removed. Before that it was not like that. Everything is, everything is given to Pope, the Peter's successor. God has given everything to Peter's throne. And then only by the mercies of the popes, the rulers could rule. Yeah. In England in 1366, the British Parliament, during the rule of Edward III, put an end to the claim of Pope that England was a vassal state. Remember, the king there signed a document saying that England and Ireland belong to. Now the Parliament passed a rule that Pope had nothing to do with. Pope does not have an inch of land here.
Before the Henry.
Yeah, before the Henry, yes. The Henry is coming only after more time. Henry comes during the Reformation time. Yes, Luther and Henry and all more or less the basically same time. The King of England refused to pay the tribute he pledged, by King John. The Pope said that no, King John may have done it, but we're not going to pay a penny. And many of the popes during the Babylonian captivity led wicked lives. At Avington, they led a luxurious life. To make money for their luxury, popes sold the office of bishops for heavy prices. That's what they did. All of the sources of income, so whoever wanted to be, you want to be bishop, pay me 2 million yours. Whoever. So it's almost like auctioning. The office of the bishop is available. Who will? We start the auction at 50,000. Okay, 60,000, 70,000, 50,000. Whoever bid for the highest price, you get it. It's not the qualifications or anything. Yeah. Nowadays, the office of elders and office of pastors all go like that. It's not always money; it's influence. Influence is just like money. What's the difference between? A poor man go to an office. He had to pay bribery. But the other influential man goes, he knows so and so and so and so, they do it the same thing. He doesn't deserve it, they do it. He come out cool, I haven't paid any bribery. Haven't you paid any bribery? What is that you did? You don't deserve it, right? But you got the job, right? Why did you get it? You had influence. That poor man didn't have influence, so he had to pay money. Any form, any time you get something you don't deserve. Whether it is for money, whether it is for influence, friendship, you are doing bribery. Bribery is not only in money, bribery is in kind also. Deserving candidate can. When Daniel became the chief secretary, what did he do immediately? He recommended the case of Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego. They were men qualified. He did not recommend simply because they were friends. So this thing is everywhere. If we go to an office, you find somebody that you really know what we all enjoy it, right? We'll go and say, why did you come have a seat? People have been standing in the queue for since morning. You came at 12 o'clock, they have been standing there from 7 o'clock. You walk in there and you get your things done and you look at them and smile. Hey, that's the way it is. A person should refuse to take, any form of. That's what justice is, honesty is, If it requires that anybody who comes to the office must stand in the queue, those other people cannot go inside, right? They're standing. Why? How do you go? Because you are an influential man. That's what it is. The influential man. Well, So bribery has different kinds. So these people were all doing that, They were buying for money. Some were not buying for money, some were because of their influence, Even some of these popes were having children, illicit children. Some of those children were made popes and cardinals. Yeah. You go to Goa, you can find the same thing, These Portuguese people who came there, they had illicit relationship with many women there. And when they have children, what they will do? 100 acres of land will write in their name. So almost all the rich people there are royal blood in them, soldiers' blood in them and all these things. This sort of things going on everywhere, Somebody who lived honestly and morally, obedient and faithful to their husband and wife, they are poor there. They are saying that I am poor because I was honest. You are rich because, your mother was dishonest. And that sort of thing. This is happening, in Christian circles, in non-Christian circles, in political circles, We need to be men of integrity and men of character. We should be men of integrity and men of character. Yes. So many of these popes during the Babylonian captivity were wicked people. Now that they don't have money coming from France, what they do? They start selling the office, a simony, It's called simony. In Acts chapter, what is Acts chapter 8? Where, Simon came to Peter's with money and said that, you take this money and give me the power to give Holy Spirit. So buying benefits, spiritual benefits for money, that's called simony. Simony became a big thing, Yes. And these popes and all these people became a burden also to believers because they were demanding money from believers. Many people begin to say and believe that Pope is Antichrist. Those days, people were saying that Pope is the Antichrist, Even now some people say they didn't start here, it started there because they were living like Antichrist living, See, that's a sad thing. When a system so corrupt so that the people who are in the system begin to hate the cream of the system. See that? The people, believers in the system, is hating the leaders of the system, because they are so corrupt, so morally corrupt. You just cannot. So Babylonian captivity caused the papacy very heavy damage. Very heavy damage. Now comes the great division, great schism, 1378 to 1470. 1378 to 1470. The Italians were greatly dissatisfied with the residence of popes at Avignon. They wanted it in Rome. They wanted Rome to be the home of papacy because that's the throne of Peter is there, The old chair of Peter, it's there. So they are not sitting there now. They are sitting on some other chair, Okay. So this led to an open rupture between the French and the Italian in 1378. Each party elected a pope. So there were two popes. One in Rome, one in Avignon. This is called the Great Schism, which lasted 1378 to 1417. The popes denounced, excommunicated, anathematized each other. The Pope in Rome will say, cursed is that Pope at Avignon. And the Avignon Pope will say, anathema, go hell. That sort of. So they were excommunicating and, it was a sad spectacle. In 1409, a council was held in Pisa to heal the schism. The council deposed both popes and elected Alexander V as a new pope. But neither of the popes would give up. So result was, now you have three popes. മലയാളത്തിൽ പറയും ചക്കിന് വെച്ചത് കൊക്കിന് കൊണ്ടെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ. They wanted one pope, so they got rid of the two popes and elected a new pope, ended up three popes. And the thing is, none of the three was accepted as pope by the people. So they have three popes but no popes. It is like say that water, everywhere water, but people are thirsty, not a drop to drink, because it's all salt water. You know. Yes, it is sad, you know, very sad. So at last in 1417, a council was called, the Council of Constance. It elected an Italian cardinal as Pope, Martin V. The other popes, they were tired of troubles, you know. So they graciously resigned. They said, we don't want to be popes, you know. They had enough. You know, I mean, you keep fighting how long you have, unless you are a really born fighter, you know. But most of the people get tired in 10, 15 years, you know, this emotional strain. And you have to satisfy the people who fight for you, you know, you have to give them doles, money, this, that, whatever they demand, you know. So how long you will keep pleasing people? It's just impossible. So Martin was elected, and Martin, yes, Martin was a stronger man than the others. So at least they had a pope now. So again the Western Church has one pope, and the great division was healed, but the wound continued to give trouble for a long time. Yes. You know, when these things happen, we know that when division come in the church and splits come in the church, schism come in the church, you know what happened? You know, maybe somebody will come and the mediator come and things talked over and reconciliation come. But the wound does not heal very easily. In their privacy, they still will say, "Ennalu avanadu cheyidallo," you know. Kanumbo, that come time I will reap. That's man's character. You know, we will say that because there is no other way you can survive. You have to say that I agree. But in mind, are you agreeing? No, you are not. You are grieved. You are angry. You are sad. You are mad. You know, and all those things there. And so this thing, kind of things. So the church is now stirred up from within. The church is stirred up from 1200 to 1517. You know, the church is stirred up from within. The Holy Roman now faded out. Nationalism is on the rise. Papacy became less powerful. The political structure is chaotic. Papacy has received serious wounds. The unity of the medieval church is lost by the great division. Common people are in confusion. Crusades did much good. Feudalism weakened. Economy improved. Intellectual life of the West improved. Different schools of people came into existence who taught things contrary to church and state, especially the church. You know, when education came, when people began to think, they were not thinking always right. One advantage of keeping people ignorant is you don't have trouble from them. The trouble is they fall in sin and all. But they are not going and coming teach anything because they don't know anything. When people get education, what they do? You know, they sit down and think. One of the things is, you know, they just wanted to have something new. So they are thinking, this Sunday, what could I say something new? You know, because, you know, new things attracts people. And the interesting thing is, the new things are usually wrong things. You cannot say any new thing. People have, the church has been speaking for 2000 years, so you read a portion of scripture and say something new, you know that what you say cannot be correct unless it was already said but then rejected. Now you are reviving it. Completely new, that's impossible. So when education came, education institutions came, professors came, theologians came, they begin to think, but not everybody thinking soberly. Some people think in reverse gear. Yeah. Some people think in reverse gear, you know, that's the way it is. I mean, that they can never think straightforward. Always a perverted thinking, you know, that's the way it is. Yeah. A child came late in the class, so the teacher asked, you know, why are you late? He said, it was raining and the road was so slippery. For every single feet I take forward, you know, I will slip backward, you know, 2 feet. So I said, then how did you reach here? I start walking backward.